right, you're on again with another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, where we focus in on God, family, and country. You have your hosts here tonight, Scott, Paris, Shane, and Scott. Thank you guys for being here tonight with us, and we're excited, or today, whenever you're listening to us. Today we have an actual special episode. I'm pretty excited about this episode. We've talked a lot about precious metals. You know that we all, the three of us love our precious metals, gold and silver, and we've talked a lot about that. Today we have a special guest from the company called Goldbacks, and they've created a way to make gold and silver, well, specifically gold with the Goldbacks, in denominations such that you can actually use it at the store in today, like right now, and use it at certain stores. It's available in a lot of places. We're going to get into it. And we're going to have the Ben, who's the vice president of marketing over there. Is that what your position has been?
Yeah, so I do all of the networking to create merchant networks and things like that. But I'm the legal counsel. I'm the lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. So you'll keep us saying what we need to say in the right way we need to say it. So
well, technically we're supposed to have First Amendment freedoms in this country, so we can say whatever we want. But
well, we just want to make sure that we say things according to what they're defined when it comes to trade, right?
Right.
For the gold. We don't want to make any outlandish claims like, carrying a Goldback will heal cancer or something weird like that.
Yeah, we can't say that.
Probably won't do that.
But silver legal disclaimer, we have no evidence to that claim. So throw that claim out.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. And really quickly before we move on, remember to hit like and subscribe. And on our YouTube channel, if you're not there, join us in our Facebook group at Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance, and join the conversation over there. Go to our website, preppertalkradio.com. And if you scroll down, you'll see a lot of resources and a lot of opportunities for you to be a part of our community. So please make sure you do that. We're still looking forward to the Jase case giveaway and the 5-ounce silver bar giveaway. So please help us get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube so we can start that giveaway. So this 5-ounce silver bar, and with the way prices are going, we'll see how that you may, depending on the day, somebody might get a real deal on that 5-ounce silver bar. But I wanted to share, I met Ben, what was it, June-ish of last year, I think, is when we had the Be Prepared Expo.
Yeah.
And oh no, that was April, maybe. Anyways, it was sometime in the middle-ish of last year, 2022. We met you at that Be Prepared Expo, and you had the booth right next to us. And I remember walking around thinking, what in the world is this crazy invention, a Goldback? So I actually have a set of Goldbacks here. I can kind of see, I hope you can see it in the video there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my set of Goldbacks. I have all the denominations they offer for the state of Utah, and they're in several states. How many states are you guys in right now?
So right now we're in 4. Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and New Hampshire, but South Dakota is coming out this year.
Nice.
I expect very soon after that to be able to officially announce some other states, but can't announce it on a podcast until we have the go ahead. But we are continuing to expand. So,
and that was the lawyer in you.
Yeah,
exactly. I guess that's my first question is for you is why just those 4 states and the 5th state? There's obviously some reason, some law for that allows you to do this in these states.
Yeah, so the idea is we don't really want to pick a fight with the Federal Reserve or anybody else. This is a supplementary program. It's a local currency concept. So what we're trying to do is base it on state law. That way, sooner or later we may tick off somebody at the Fed for creating an alternative currency system, or bringing back the gold standard is what we like to say we're doing, is we're bringing back the gold standard one exchange at a time. So somebody sooner or later might not look on that favorably. We want to make sure that what we're doing is protected by our local state laws, so that if anybody at the Feds does want to change the rules or pass some law that would give us any kind of trouble, they've got to go through the states first. So it really started with the Utah Legal Tender Act. It's also called the Specie Legal Tender Act, specie meaning gold or silver, basically, which makes gold and silver legal tender in the state of Utah. So, you can even technically, they haven't fully laid out rules for this, but you could pay your taxes in something like Goldbacks. That way you can use it. And then, of course, we've got hundreds of businesses in Utah and in these other states that are all using it just like they would any other kind of cash. The difference is that this cash, even though it's thin like paper, it isn't just paper. This is gold. So they can have some real value for their money that they're using.
So is it a different weight of gold per sheet? How do you
Yep.
break it all down?
So one Goldback is 1/1000th of a troy ounce. So your standard gold coin is 1 ounce. This is cut into 1,000 pieces to make one of these. Now, the fun thing is those different denominations, though, like the 5, the 10, the 25, the 50, they have proportionally different amounts of gold in them. So, you guys hold them in your hands. You can just feel automatically just how much heavier, say, a 25 or a 50 is than a 1, because it's got 25 or 50 times as much gold in it.
Look how the difference in size there,
Yeah.
just from the 1 and the 5. If you're watching on, and that 50, it's thick. It's much heavier. So you can tell. You can really tell. And that's not 50. That's not like we would say if you had a $50 bill. This is 50 1/1000th or 1/20th of a troy ounce if you have the 50, and that's the largest denomination you guys make, right?
That's right, because we figured, that was already getting a little bit excessive. 50 Goldbacks, therefore, is worth about $200 right now. You don't really need anything bigger than a $200 bill in your pocket in order to do regular transactions. In fact, that's really what it comes down to. This is why we did this is, we all know that gold and silver is valuable. But what do you do about change? It's one of the hardest things. People might collect, say, mercury dimes and things like that. And that's about the right amount, right? If you've got a bunch of mercury dimes, you can trade for the things that you need and actually have a denomination that you can exchange. But they're not making any more mercury dimes, right? And it's also not really a full monetary system. We've got a full monetary system. A mercury dime and a Goldback are worth about the same. And that way you can hone in on a price, something that's small, like a sandwich or a loaf of bread. You can buy for 1 Goldback. Whereas, if let's say you've got a gold coin, let's say you've got a bunch of gold coins and shit hits the fan. Am I allowed to use that word on this show? Sorry.
Sure.
If SHTF,
later we can.
We want to be sure that if SHTF, that you can actually buy something you need. And you really can't do that with most gold or silver because they've all got different premiums or different amounts, or they're just too darn valuable. You don't want to trade it for a loaf of bread. You want to trade a gold brick for a loaf of bread. That's going to be the most expensive loaf of bread in history.
So
right?
question, in Utah, can I take a Goldback, walk into Subway and get a sandwich?
I'm not sure if we have a Subway, but we do have quite a few restaurants and some bakeries that are accepting Goldbacks.
The reason I ask is like the generation that's working those jobs right now, they can't give regular change, right?
let alone change
change for a Goldback. So I'm a little that's my only concern.
So how do they figure that out? So let me tell you, pull up that website, goldback.com.
Okay.
And on the website, goldback.com, one of the first things you're going to see on the very top scroll is calculator.
Let me bring it up. When I rebooted, I didn't connect it.
And basically what we're doing is we're trying to offer a bunch of tools to make this simpler. The value of gold versus the US dollar fluctuates just like any other currency would. And so, there's an exchange rate, and then there's the trouble of math. And what do you do if you've got some Gen Z kid who doesn't know what to do? So you go up to the top of the screen there, you hit calculator, and it will bring up a transaction calculator. You put in any amount in US dollars, it will tell you what to do in Goldbacks. So just make up some numbers for us.
Let's say $25.33. Oops.
Oh, yeah. You might want to put a point there. There you go. Used car or something. All right. It says, please pay 7 Goldbacks. Now, what if I pay you 7 or any other amount of Goldbacks? How many Goldbacks did I hand you? So let's say I had a 10. You could put 10 in there. Or if I have the exact change, I could put 7. And then you hit enter on that, and bam, it tells you what the change is in Goldbacks and in U.S. currency.
Oh, wow. So it says down here, give me back, $13.77 or 3 Goldbacks and $2.04.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Interesting.
Or if you want to do a split payment, then they only paid 5 Goldbacks toward it, then it would tell you how much more they owe in fiat. That way you can hone in on a U.S. dollar price.
So this would be, okay, I see. That's cool.
Now, what I'm hoping people will do is start listing their goods and services, put their menu in Goldbacks. And then if someone wants to pay in U.S. dollars, this calculator is actually fully reversible. The top of the calculator, you can switch it to being based on Goldbacks. It'll tell you what to do in U.S. dollars.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
So if I walk into a store and I want to buy something and they accept Goldbacks, of course, they're already going to have this website available and they're going to know what to do.
Most of the time they'll pull this up on a phone or on a cash register, some app with this on it, and then bam, they'll be able to.
But if I come across a company a business that doesn't have this yet, what and I want to pay in Goldbacks, of course I should probably, just to make sure, I should have my dollars or my credit card or debit card available. But if I show them some Goldbacks and they're like, what in the world is that crazy, thing you're flashing in front of my face?
Mhm.
What do you recommend then?
Well, if they don't know what it is, goldback.com is a good resource, and then they can see the calculator and start to figure it out. Let's say you're in a situation where you don't have access to online information. Let's say this is an actual EMP situation. You don't have access to your bank account anyway. What you've got is that wallet full of Goldbacks you have there.
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to want to do is basically estimate. A lot of places do this. There's a really fun libertarian festival called the Pork Fest. People usually just assume it's worth about $4 per Goldback, even though gold and the dollar has fluctuated some. If you have a general idea of what you'd like to charge for something, and you assume it's about $4, you're not going to be way off. After all, an exchange rate is only an average. That's created by the free market anyway, but some people will charge more or less. Some people will give you a discount for paying in Goldbacks, which makes them worth more technically. So.
Yeah, because the value could increase, and if they hold on to that Goldback for a couple of years, that could be. Today, it's according to the website you have here, it's $3.91, so $4 isn't that far off.
Yep.
But I remember last year when we first visited, I remember that being like $3.50 something or $3.85. So just in the year, it's already increased in value as a store. And of course, we all know that gold and silver is one of the most fantastic ways to have a store of value for your assets.
Right. It's more stable over time anyway. When I see fluctuations in this, I don't really think my Goldbacks have gone up in value or down in value. I think, man, the dollar sure is unstable.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, so the Goldback derives its value from essentially, if you were to take 1/1000th of an ounce of gold right now, it's about $1.84, something like that. So
$1.80.
Yeah,
right?
It's like 1847 right now today. Mm-hmm. I just checked. So the other portion of that value is created by the free market at this point, basically, correct?
Well, sure. That's the other thing too that's a little bit tricky to think about. What is the spot price? The spot price is supposed to be an estimate of the market value, what it's going to cost you to buy gold in bulk in an industrial and
not including a premium. So I did not account any kind of premium there. Yep.
Right. And so you could think about it this way. Iron that is still underground, that is the estimated value of bulk iron, is not the same thing as buying a car, right? A car is worth more than the estimated value of iron in an iron mine. Why? Because when it's made into a car, it's a vehicle. It'll get you someplace that a big pile of scrap metal isn't going to get you. Same thing with the Goldback. The Goldback is now in the form of an actual currency. And so the free market has been valuing its exchange rate value higher than the gross commodity value of gold on those big gold exchanges, which really are based on things like those big gold bricks. Not even a coin will carry a premium higher than that even, or maybe bulk gold in shot form from a refinery. If you wanted to say buy 10 kilos of gold shot, then you're getting closer to the spot price, right? But yeah, the Goldback is more of an actual, since it's an actual currency and it actually is legal tender, it really is so much more useful. Just like that car is going to get you places that a lump of scrap metal won't. The Goldback will get you places that spot gold would never get you. And so, yeah, the premium is about 100%.
Okay. So yeah, I'm premium. And comparing, I'm looking at silver.com at the gold price. They have a 1/100th of an ounce gold bar, which is obviously tiny, for $33. So that's really not far from where it is now at $3.91, where you're getting 1/100th of an ounce, and you're splitting even farther to 1,000th of an ounce. Which, if you were to try and get 1,000th of an ounce bar, first you're not going to be able to get it.
Yeah, this is the only one.
Exactly.
This is so tiny.
Exactly, and so that premium would be even higher. So
Yeah.
That's one thing that made a lot of sense to me when I first learned about Goldbacks is you can't split gold down into such small denominations. First of all, you'd have a hard time keeping track of them. It's like panning for gold. You got your gold dust in there, but also your premiums get exorbitantly high, and then it's not worth like us gold collectors, as silver investors, gold investors. We try and buy as large of a denomination as we can because the premium is lower. But then, like you're saying, in a barter economy, barter situation, how are you going to make change? You can't. You're going to have to buy a whole bunch of something you probably don't want.
Yep.
So it makes perfect sense to divide that down, and that premium really makes a lot of sense to me. How minimal it actually is for how far it is divided down to a thousandth of an ounce.
Yeah, I talked to a guy at one of these prepper groups, and he goes, "Why would I want your tiny little 1/1000th of an ounce? I've got a couple of gold bars in my safe. If SHTF, if it all goes down, I'm protected. I don't care what happens to inflation. I've got so much gold, it's fine." And I said, "Okay, picture this. You can't access a bank account. You got to rely on those gold bars. You really need a bag of groceries. Are you going to give them a gold bar for a bag of groceries?" And he goes, "Oh my gosh. Okay, give me $600 worth of those."
It's funny because that's the same scenario in the Italian Job movie, right? The biggest challenge is offloading those bars,
right?
And you lose a ton of money doing it. So if you have the smaller stuff, now I kind of picture Shane running around now with a little leather coin pouch tied to his belt that has little tiny shavings in it now, but we've just diverted that or
clippings,
avoided that.
clippings, yeah.
Small,
well, and the biggest problem with
clippings.
those clippings are people like us. We understand the value of gold and silver, right? And you might look at a little pile of gold dust or flakes and say, "Hey, I see value," right? Your average guy that you're going to be bartering with, do they see value? Do they even know what it is? Do they know how to test it? How can they verify its purity? How can they test its weight? How can they all that stuff? It's way above the pay grade. I mean, for example, you were just talking about how do you get some Gen Z clerk to figure out how much I just paid? Imagine how much harder that is if you're like, "Oh yeah, see, I've got this gold dust. We're gonna measure it out." That's not going to work. They need to see something simple. It's got to be measured out in exact measurements for them ahead of time, and that's what we're doing here.
I think it's funny. There was a video. I think it was Mark Dice did a video, and he went down to the local boardwalk, and he was there, and he had a 10-ounce silver bar, and he had 10 Hershey's bars, and he would ask passerbys, people passing by. He said, "Which would you rather have, a 10-ounce silver bar or a chocolate Hershey bar?" And most people were like, "Well, what am I going to do with a 10-ounce silver bar?" And he was actually standing in front of a pawn shop.
So they could like go and get cash and buy a whole truckload of Hershey bars if that's what they really want.
Exactly. Yeah. But he actually gave away all the Hershey bars before anybody was even interested in the 10-ounce bar or something similar to that. And so that's one of my concerns is that, I hand somebody a silver coin or a gold coin even, and they're like, "What is this? Like, I don't know what this is," but and it's even a Goldback, a lot of people will be like, "Well, how do I know this is really what it is or what it is?" How do you establish that with people? How do you help people understand that there's that value there?
There can be a little bit to make the education easier, right? There are a couple things on here that make it easier. Like you just have one. The whole front of it is basically a certificate of authenticity, right? So it says things on it like specie legal tender instrument. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So when they see that it's legal tender and they see one, they go, "Oh, is it worth $1?" Is the first question that most people ask if they don't understand. And then you can say, actually, the dollar has been devalued over time. So instead of being worth $1 now, the dollar's been worth less and less. It's worth about $4 now. And I'll go, "Oh, I get it," right? Not too hard. The other thing too is it is exchangeable. So it is a bearer note under law. There's the lawyer thing coming out again. It's exchangeable by Goldback Inc. and U.S. Gold Coin to bearer on demand. So this is also a bearer note, meaning that they can verify their quantity and exchange it for U.S. minted gold that's guaranteed by the U.S. government. And then, so there's a couple of those things on it that just makes it look like money to the person who's uneducated, doesn't know the value of gold or silver. They can tell, "Oh, this is money. Oh, it's money in Utah. What if I'm not in Utah?" Well, you can tell them it's still gold, and you can always exchange it for
whoever will accept it. Yeah.
I think the funny thing is going to be, okay, when the feces hits the vertical oscillator.
Yes. Right.
The people who are going to be doing well are going to be the people who are prepared, preppers, right? Preppers and survivalists. We're going to have a better shot at this, and we're going to be educating our neighbors that are surviving. You know, this is the thing you need now. But we're going to get to a point where it's going to be like, okay, who's left, right? Well, only the preppers are going to survive to that point, or somebody who's extremely lucky, and they'll be the only one that doesn't understand gold and silver, because preppers all should understand gold and silver, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We should all know what real money is and isn't.
That's a good point.
Because the difference is, of course, you just can't make more of these unless you have the gold to make them, right?
Right.
So it has that intrinsic value. Oh, and I do want to point out, some people look at it because they see there's plastic on both sides, right?
Mhm,
And they'll say, well, what about the gold? How do I get the gold out? Well, first of all, you don't want to do that. It is like melting down a car. But let's say you are the wrecker guy. You do want to melt them down. I do want to assure you, you can. You do need a proper crucible, something like a kiln to put this in the proper crucible cup. But if you try to melt these down, you can. The inks are specifically designed, as well as the polymer is designed to evaporate at a lower temperature than the gold melt. And so you will end up with a BB of absolutely pure gold as a remainder left over if you melt them down.
Yeah, that's good to know. So what can you tell us about how these are made? I know it's proprietary, obviously, but
well, sure.
Like you say, each note actually contains that certified amount of gold, the precious metal.
Yeah. So actually, it's a really technologically advanced process to make these. That's one of the reasons why you don't want to melt them down. It's expensive to make them. You don't want to waste that work. But basically, you could think of it like 3D printing. 3D printing builds up something rather than takes something away. And that's what we're doing with the gold. We actually print the clear plastic first with the art on it. And then we put it inside what's called a vacuum deposition chamber. So you've got a clean sheet of plastic. There's nothing inside, total vacuum. But then you've got a laser shooting against a plate of pure gold. And it is then spraying with that laser, essentially. That laser is shining down on it. 1 photon per gold atom is being carried down and fused onto the surface.
Wow.
And that makes it possible to create nanocomputers, but we're using it to do exact measurements of gold atoms.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's how you can make 1/1000th of the troy ounce. It also makes it completely uncounterfeitable. No even remotely credible counterfeit has ever come even close. If you look at the blank spot of a Goldback, especially on the back, where there's no writing or printing, you will see there's a tiny micro pattern. I'm going to try to show it to the camera.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
You see it? There's like this mosaic in the background. That mosaic in the background is actually created in the gold itself at an atomic level by these lasers that are 3D printing it in there.
Okay, so boys and girls listening, if you want to try to create one of these on your own, you're going to need an investor with a few $1 million.
That's right.
Just for the machine. Like, I just can't even fathom. I'm not a tech guy.
We haven't even bought the gold yet.
What you actually need to be able to do that. So we won't go any deeper on that, but like, that's really fascinating.
Well, and here's the fun thing too.
Printed money.
Let's say you did spend the millions of dollars. You tried to become a competitor of Goldback or whatever, and you tried to, and then you thought, you know what? I'll make even more money by shorting them the gold. I'll give them less gold, and that way I can counterfeit these. Well, then nobody's going to fall for it anyway. Because if you pick up a 25 Goldback and it's as thin as a 1, you can tell. A blind man could tell you if it was fake.
So
it feels,
my next question is, I have not tried this yet. I've got a gold detector. I have not put it up to the gold detector. I guess there's no reason why it would not detect this pure gold as any other piece of gold.
Well, here's the thing. It does depend on your detector, though. Some of the ones, they're not exactly cheap, but some of the more accessible ones are usually the small weighted one that shoots the laser up and does the spectrometer. One of the problems with those detecting the gold on these is that they're thin.
They're so thin.
The purpose of those is to try to find out if something is gold plated or not.
Right,
so it is not looking for the surface gold. It is trying to penetrate into that coin to look for whether or not it's a fake. Because those are the types of fakes that you see out there. There's a lot of counterfeit gold and silver coins. And usually they actually are gold or silver on the outside. There's just some cheaper metal, maybe even just steel or whatever on the inside. So some of those won't detect these because they'll shoot right through. But
But I was thinking more of like a treasure hunting type gold detector. So there's no reason why
A lot of those will
easily
pick
find
it right up. No problem.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to try that.
That's awesome. So what are you seeing in terms of with the fact that you're adding more states? It sounds like you're growing really rapidly. So what are you seeing in terms of acceptance, both on the business side and also on the consumer side? What are you seeing in terms of growth for the Goldback?
So the whole project is less than 4 years old, about 3 years old. And when we started, we only had Utah, and there was only the 1 and the 5. Was when I first found out about this project and got on board. There was only the 1 and the 5 denomination, and they'd only made about $100,000 worth. Well, those sold out pretty fast, so things started picking up. Then we had the pandemic. People started realizing with all of the stimulus that there was going to be massive inflation. With all of the uncertainty in the world, people started getting on board and realizing that this was a good way to save their wealth, right? So, yeah, we've grown from there. The first year being a few $100,000 worth to now we're doing about $4 million a month in production and sales. Gross, of course.
So just to give an example of historical, and not that far back, in Germany, when their dollar or whatever you call it, whatever their currency was, when that devalued, you had to take a wheelbarrow full of their value to buy a loaf of bread or a bag of groceries. Now, if you had taken that same wheelbarrow full of money and bought Goldbacks with it before the devaluation happened, imagine what you would be able to take that money down there and say, this, I've got real. And I appreciate that you're using the word currency, because I know that's kind of what you have to use, but we know it's money. It's real money.
Well, exactly.
It's sound money. It's not actually currency. But if you took that money before the devaluation, you would have such better position.
Yeah, and like you're saying, the dollar itself is not money; it's currency. It is printed currency.
Yeah.
What to me it seems that the Goldback is both money and currency, because it's gold and it is a legal tender as well.
Yep. So it's kind of that. It is kind of a hybrid that way, right? And it's flat like currency too, which means it can fit in your wallet, which also helps a lot. I don't know how many people have really thought about this, but if you need to, let's say you need to make a big purchase, you want to buy a car or a house, you can carry on your person enough Goldbacks to buy a house.
Really?
You cannot carry on your person enough silver to buy a house. You need a truck.
A couple thousand ounces. Well, it's even more than it's like 20,000 ounces or something like that. Yeah, it's a lot at this point, right? It's going to change dramatically in the near future, in my opinion. Both gold and silver.
And so if you were to buy, let's say I was to buy something big from you, like a house, and I paid you in Goldbacks, the miracle is I could carry in my hands enough Goldbacks to buy the house, and then you could take some of those Goldbacks and walk down and buy a sandwich for lunch with 1 or 2 Goldbacks out of that purchase without having to make any other additional exchanges, without any other technology. It'd be right there. So everything from the smallest to the largest stuff can be done.
Whereas right now, everything is going the opposite way. Everything is going digital. It's going to central bank digital currency. That's where things are going. So part of this is fighting against that system.
That's probably the disaster that we are most afraid of right now. More than any natural disaster, more than anything else, is what happens when they decide to do a central bank digital currency. Well, that will mean that they actually have the power to, like a light switch, turn on or off your ability to make any purchase anywhere. What if they decide, we don't want you to travel, so we're going to say that you can only buy gas within 30 miles of your registered domicile? Because they can monitor every single transaction. Again, people say, oh, well, they wouldn't bother with me. I'm small time. I'm nobody. And it's true that they don't need to have but here's the problem. You don't need a human to make that decision. A central bank digital currency comes with algorithms. It comes with AI. All they have to do is say, we want to shut down a certain type of industry or a certain type of activity. And whether or not you're even involved in that type of activity, if it just looks like it to the algorithm, bam, you're caught up in that dragnet. All of a sudden, you have no money, which means that it really isn't money. Real money has real value, and it can't be manipulated. It can't be taken away. It can't be anything, right? It's tangible. But central bank digital currency, that's just social credit.
Exactly.
We're
It has
seeing that,
no
and that's
intrinsic value whatsoever.
and that's literally happening in China right now.
Yeah.
Everything you described is literally
No,
happening in China.
All you have to do is become persona non grata, and you don't even have to be political to become persona non grata. You just have to be
Post a
outside the box, even by
podcast like
accident
this.
at some time.
Or
Yeah, you
be
just
on a
have to post
like
a podcast like this.
Maybe.
And see, I know some people fear gold and silver because, and the only maybe downside to gold and silver is that it can be stolen from you.
Sure.
But it has to be robbed. It has to be taken from you by force. And so I think some people they're used to be able to have it in the bank. You know, if somebody can take the card, they can turn the card off, right, and protect their currency in the bank. But people have to realize, you know, that's not money. Numbers on a screen is not money. It is, yes, it can be used to get the things that you need, but it's not real wealth, and it will not last the test of time. I mean, currencies have a very short shelf life. I mean, that's been proven for hundreds and thousands of years. And our currency is going the way of the dodo bird as well. And so I keep very little in the bank itself, right? I keep my savings is in precious metals, gold and silver, and a little bit of Goldbacks as well.
So,
And pew pew.
Yes, and the pew pews, the lead. So I guess part of owning gold and silver is being willing to protect that and defend that as well.
Yeah,
I mean that it goes without saying. I mean, our ancestors had to do that for hundreds of years, and I think we'll have to do that eventually as well.
Yep, having a safe and having all that. And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I noticed you guys had a post on your Instagram where you actually went into the details of this argument that everybody has about the premium and how much that really is. And so is there anything you want to revisit about that?
My short answer is this is actually the only precious metal in the world that has zero premium. You will never pay a premium on your Goldbacks. And people go, what are you talking about? Spot value, if I were to take a pile of Goldbacks and melt them down, it's like 100% premium. I'd be losing a lot of value on that. And it's true, you would. The nice thing is that with Goldbacks, you will never pay a penny of that premium. So because if I buy these Goldbacks, which actually from several places you can get for less than the exchange rate. So to some extent, it's a negative premium. There's several places that you can get Goldbacks for less than their current exchange rate. And then I go out and spend these at the exchange rate. I've literally saved money, not spent it. And at the very least, if I buy it at the exchange rate and I sell it at the exchange rate and I spend it at the exchange rate, or I redeem it and get it back at the exchange rate, I still paid nothing for the privilege of owning gold that's transactable and protecting my my assets. So really, it's the best premium in the market. If you buy gold and silver coin or bars, one of the things you're going to be doing is you're always going to be paying for a certain amount over spot. And when you sell it at the coin store or the pawn shop, you're probably only going to get spot for it.
Yeah, I was just going to look up an example of exactly what you're saying here. So I'm looking up.
But there's no spread on these. And if you are tempted to melt these down, they are, like I said, a bearer note. They're exchangeable for U.S. gold coin. We will exchange them to you for bulk gold that we mind if you melt it down a little less than we mind if you melt ours. Don't melt these. Trade us for gold shot at the same weight. No problem.
That's smart.
That's awesome.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I did see there are a couple places that sell the Goldbacks, and they, for example, I don't remember the premium, but I calculated it out, and you know, everybody has these credit cards now where they get the cash back, you know, the 5% cash back or the 6% cash back or whatever. And I calculated if I used a Goldback at a store, I was actually getting closer to a 10% cash back, if you will.
Oh my gosh.
Than the 5% with my credit card.
If you buy them at the cheapest price you can get, you know, I want you guys to be able to set up maybe a referral code for your listeners to go and buy some Goldbacks. If you get them from certain places, you can often get them, you know, for as much as 10% less than that exchange rate. What a great way to save some money and for the cause of sound money at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we got your email to fill out that to be affiliates for your situation, and we're going to discuss that and make that available, and probably put a link in the description of this video as soon as we get that up and running. But yeah, there's several places that sell the Goldbacks that I mean, I actually went down to the building that you're in right now. Probably, I know you've expanded that building, you've opened up other offices in that building, but I went down to Alpine there and I talked with I think it was Kevin's stepson.
Cade.
Yeah, Cade. I talked with Cade, and I got my kit, and I got my set of 1, 5, 10. Actually, with several ones, a 5, couple of 5s, a 10, a 25, and a 50 for Utah, and I'm excited about it. The one thing that and the other thing I wanted to share with everybody, and I know that you'll kind of you can kind of elaborate on this. Like, let's say if you want to go spend it and you're in an area, where on the website can you go to look and see? Sorry.
Yeah. So go up to Goldbacks at the top there, and then look for featured businesses.
Where's that? Oh, there it is. Featured businesses. So if you are in a state, like let's say,
so select a state off the little list there,
Utah,
and it will show you a list. And with that list comes a map. People like the map, but don't stop at the map. There's tags. There's a search feature. There's a list where you can just scroll down and just scroll through them all. You can zoom in on a particular area. And this is just the Utah list, of course. There's also a Wyoming list, a New Hampshire list. The Nevada list is a little bit short of as many as we would like, but it should be launching any day now.
Wow. This is way longer than it was before.
Yeah, it's about 350 businesses now in the state of Utah where you can spend your Goldbacks.
And I think what's nice about this for me, because I think most preppers, we buy and we hold. We're waiting for the right time if we're going to sell that. Some people are buying their gold and silver so that there's a collapse, and after the collapse they'll have something to rebuild with, right? That's not exactly why I'm purchasing gold and silver. It's to protect wealth, but also I'm my own bank. So if at some point, you know what, this is my savings account. If I need to dip into my savings, yes, if I own gold bullion, silver bullion, I've got to go sell it at a discount, right? To what I paid for it, likely, unless I'm hold it long enough. But it makes sense to me if I have some Goldbacks and I need to go out and spend them, find someone who accepts it, and it's 1 for 1 at that point.
Yeah.
Now,
the other thing that's fun about that too is, we get gold and silver because we're trying to get away from this this fiat money that we don't like, right? The problem is that once you want to spend it, once you do have a need, right, we go right back. We go right back and buy in to that system again. The nice thing with the Goldback is you technically, especially if we can get this to near universal acceptance, once you exit the fiat currency, you never have to look back. You can just stay in the Goldback system without ever having to liquidate and go back to the dollar. Now, of course, you can do that. There's lots of ways and lots of places with us, especially in Utah, you can come in and just liquidate them for dollars. But isn't it nice to not have to do that?
But also, as the dollar goes down in value, as inflation increases, gold, the value of gold is going up. Your purchasing power of gold is going up. So why hold dollars when you can hold gold, when you can hold Goldbacks?
So if I come across a company that doesn't have Goldbacks as they don't accept it, what can I do to help educate them? I'm obviously turning them over to the website, but do you guys have somebody that I can say, hey, I've got a business owner, he wants to know more. What do we do? How do we get these guys to have more information about really accepting this and knowing what to do because then, the other thing too is that I know that once a business owner receives the money, a lot of times they're working with like Loomis or some other armored cars, and they're working with banks to exchange cash all around. What do they do when it comes to the Goldback? Do you have a system where they can store it with you, or you can store it with them? Or talk a little bit about how do I get a business on board, and then what do they do about it?
Right. So first of all, of course, there's 4 things they can do with the Goldbacks once they get them. They can save them. Every business should have some savings, and it's better to have your savings in precious metals. They can spend them. There's plenty of business to business transactions is actually a huge part of the Goldback network. We're trying to build out supply chains so that we can secure those supply chains in the case of any emergency, especially a financial emergency, so that they can, secure their supplies to keep their businesses going. The third thing they can do is they can give them out as change. I tell you what, if you go to some store and you pay in cash, and then they say, how would you like your change? What I'd like them to ask is, would you like that in paper or gold? And if they start asking their customers, would you like that in paper or gold? A surprising number say gold, by the way, because we do have some businesses that are doing this and as a test market for us. And most of them are finding about 80% will say, wait, I can get it in gold. And then they give them some Goldbacks as their change.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
When they do that, those people remember where they first got
Mhm.
gold for change. They will frequent that business. They keep, you know what I mean? It's the best advertising they could do. They've got a shiny reminder in their wallet to go back to that business and spend it again. And then the fourth thing they can do is they can turn it into dollars or just do it electronically through an account at Alpine Gold. They can basically run it similar to a bank account where you can do electronic transactions. You can get a debit card against your holdings and all kinds of stuff like that. But you can also just deposit these into your account here or withdraw them and then use it in any of those other ways.
That's awesome. So Alpine Gold does have the ability to have a kind of a store it, and we can use credit card, debit card, so to speak.
We have a tier 2 secured facility here where we vault gold, silver, and Goldbacks of all kinds. And so, Alec, you may have noticed when you came in and talked to Cade, one of our cashiers, you know, not only do we have the whole wall is bulletproof and ballistics rated and all that sort of thing, and they've got the little drawer and all that stuff, but we're armed, fully armed.
Yeah.
And,
everybody had one.
And before you get down to the vault, there's all kinds of other preventative measures, including the lasers and all that cool stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
I'd probably put it akin to, if anyone here has ever watched Galaxy Quest, there's a section they have to get through that you have to know the perfect timing to get through it, or you're just completely shredded and dead. I would assume it's something akin to that. If you aren't already on the inside, you're never going to get through it.
I picture more like Resident Evil, right, where you go down the hall, laser grid coming down at you.
Yeah, you know, I was really disappointed when I found out about the lasers. I was like, oh yeah, so I need to get like a spray bot, get some smoke so I can see the lasers. And then I have to do like acrobatics to get through the lasers. And they're like, here's the problem: the laser grid, the spaces between the lasers is about as thick as a mechanical pencil lead.
Oh geez. So you're never going to be able to do acrobatics.
There's no dancing.
Lasers. I'm sorry.
So basically, we have to shrink down to the subatomic level like Ant-Man could, and then we can get in. If only that were real.
Quantum realm. Oh, that's awesome. Ben, thanks for being on the show.
Awesome. Very educational. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know we promised you we'd have you off around 6 o'clock or so our time here. Yep. So any last final things you want to share with the world, or our listeners anyways, our world, about Goldbacks and the importance of Goldbacks and why we should be involved in the Goldbacks?
You know, I think the main thing I would say, especially for the prepping community, is that so often we're waiting for something else to happen to trigger the reason why we're going to do something. Oh, I'm going to get this just in case something big happens. The neat thing about Goldback is you don't have to wait for a disaster to do something better, to do something smarter. And in this case, the Goldbacks, even though they are the ultimate apocalypse money, you don't actually have to wait for a financial disaster to start doing something smarter, better, saving your money in a more useful way. All you really need to do is, hey, go to that link you're probably going to have for them. Get yourself some Goldbacks, get some regularly every month, get some savings going, and just start using them. It's the same thing, you know, I see all the time, especially with preppers. You'll find somebody who, especially if they're new at this, they'll buy a bunch of freeze-dried food or something like that, but they don't know how to cook it. And then they just make a fool of themselves when it really comes down to it, because then they'll be like, oh, wait, I don't remember how to use this. It's sort of like that with the Goldbacks. You don't have to just wait for some crazy thing to be in a barter situation. You can start practicing it now. You can start eating that freeze-dried food and figure out what works for you, what doesn't, exactly how to make your community more resistant and resilient right now to any disaster, financial or otherwise, that's going to come to your community. If you secure that supply chain, if you secure your community by actually using it now, then, you know, some of the worst disasters in the world could happen. We could have, you know, nuclear war or an EMP or a total collapse of our financial system. And you guys might not even find out about it for a couple of days because you're doing just fine. So long as you build resilient systems now. And so that's what I'd say is let's not wait for disaster. Let's just build it better now.
Smart.
Great points. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you guys. Have a good one.
Ben, hey, we'll close out real fast before we let you go, but we just wanted to say thanks once again for having you on. Hopefully those that you're listening to this episode, that you got a lot out of this episode from Ben and the Goldbacks and what they're bringing to the table here. I love what you said. We don't have to wait for the apocalypse. Although this is the perfect apocalypse money. I think that's true. And so I'm going to start using my Goldbacks a little bit more. Probably need to get a few more Goldbacks to be able to have enough to be able to use them on a regular basis. And, it's fun to have a collection of them, but I think it's also to have, just for safekeeping, and that's just, they're cool, and why not have a little collection too, but at the same time, have some that you can use in transactions on a daily basis.
We will have a state or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we will have we will have a link in the description below at some point in the future. We don't have it right now or ready, and we'll put this episode out probably before we get that link going. But thank you again for listening. Thanks for being with us. Remember to stay ready, be ready. And you've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, where we talk about God, family, and country, and helping you stay ready-minded and prepared. Thanks a bunch. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. We'll see you.